Hello? Sean, hello? Hey, hey, howdy? Hello? Hello, hello? Roby says hello. Nero says hello. Lenore says hey, hey. Ethan says it may be 1 a.m. here, but I'm here for Mr. Canvas. At least for a little while. Yeah, I don't know how long we'll go. Nero calling me dad. Okay, okay. Ian, hello. Tommy, hello. Good day, comrade. La Geeky, Javier, hola, hola Javier. All right, we got a special stream today. Not only because it's or later, but because it's hosted by this guy. He's hosting it. You see, I can't be sitting in that chair right now because he looks so cozy. You know what? Hold on a second. I brought my own chair just so that we don't disturb the cat. Wait, I gotta give you a view of the cat as well. All right, there you go. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. I know this is a bit awkward. I'm on the side there, but it's either me or the cat. And I know chat wants to see the cat. Even though the focus is on me, I'm sorry. Ugh. Hello. Mila says 13. Hello. Yes, cat. It's 5 p.m. where Margot is. Oh, 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 the scratch, the stretch. We get the whole kit. And we're back in a low ball. Oh, and the little licks. He's giving you the whole show. Hold on, I'll move him a bit, all right? Hopefully he doesn't get disturbed by that. Hold on. All right. So we got the statue of Saint Dominic to hidden now, but it got replaced for something much better. He's so blurry though. We're a bit late today. Perhaps it's going to be better for people in my own continent, in America. Hello, Chef Big Dog. Hello, Kurt, who says, who are y'all favorite artist? He says Caravaggio. It would be a crime to remove him. Yeah, he got my chair. He got my chair. Hello, everyone. And he says they don't have a favorite painting. New at art appreciation. Hard to get a favorite. It's hard to get a favorite. The good shot composition. We got background, we got foreground, we got everything. Literally taking the focus off the cat. All right, we love the cat, but like, it's my show. Hello. Who else? Yatuki's there. Hello, Yatuki. Michael Medence. It's not that late. 2 a.m. I mean, it depends on people's schedule, right? Some people might be a bit late. Let me close the light. Oh shit! We gotta say hi to Instagram. I almost forgot. We gotta say hi to Instagram. So everyone has to say hi to Instagram. Show that we're having fun, even though we haven't started yet. We gotta send a picture to Instagram. Come on, don't be shy. Say hello, Instagram. And hopefully some people will join. All right. So much fun, Instagram. There you go. We're having fun. Come join. There you go. With my dirty screen. It'll have to do. Anabe Haunario. Hello. Hello, Anabe. I wonder, I imagine a lot of people are not gonna, like, are gonna be new today? Because, like, we're pretty late. I don't know how many people there will be. Think of the Europeans, though. I know I have to think of the Europeans. Like, Europeans have had, like, all the streams for themselves. Lise Tessier, allô Lise. Alexandre Jorniak, Jorniak, is that it? 1 a.m. as well over there. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Have you considered ever making a video on that discusses the link between painting and literature? I think it would be fascinating to delve into the artistic production of writers/poets. I could. Yeah, Kafka, Bukowski, Kerouac. Yeah, I definitely could. Kafka would probably be one that people would be interested in. It's the kind of vibe that people like. I read a book by Kerouac in French, because Kerouac's parents are from Quebec. And he said that when he wrote in French, but he didn't know how to write in French. He only spoke it, and he spoke it very, like, brokenly. But he said that when he wrote, he thought in French and then translated to English. And I read a book of his where he writes in French, or how he wrote phonetically in French. And it's really beautiful because he would write in let me go get it. Hold on. All right. This is when the skills of being a of working in a bookstore for so long came with, like, is good for. So I can find books really, really quickly. It's this one. Whoops. Jacques Kerouac. Oh, I have to hide my face. Jacques Kerouac, La vie est dommage. And this means life is dommage in English. Is kind of like sad in a way. But the way he wrote it, instead of writing dommage, like sad, he wrote it homage. Homage? Which is like praising. So with his, like, phonetically, like how he wrote phonetically, he was actually making some really nice play on words. It was interesting. I recommend this book. I could read you some some Kerouac in French, but I don't think it would be what you guys would want. I have here. There's even pictures of him writing in French. In Quebec French, no less. If I can find them. There you go. This is him writing in French. Anyway. Ian Melgarejos asks if there's a Discord. Yes, there is. I open Discord and then I see that Rio has appeared there. See, Rio's already stealing the show. All right, hold on. Let me send you the link to the Discord, because I don't think you can send it if you're not me, if you're not Mr. Canvas. How's everyone, by the way? How was your week? Anything new? Any interesting videos you watched? Did you watch that Philosophy Tube video? I did. Did you like it? I did. There you go. Here's Discord. Got someone from Brazil, Anabe. Milases is from Argentina. 2 a.m. for Shadow, so he's in Europe, or there in Europe. 5 p.m. in Mexico. See, that's the 5 p.m. Mexico. That means like you couldn't watch my prior streams. Camille Bitsnakinson says, "Allô, bonjour, bonjour Camille." Mila says was disappointed by On the Road. Sadly. I'll be honest, I tried reading it On the Road, but I never completely finished it. I don't know why. I don't remember why. Lenore says the Discord is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun for Lenore. I know that. I know that for a fact. Annie says, I found your channel because I discovered writing. I have found more inspiration from art than from other creative sources, although music comes before other written works. Nice, I'm happy to hear that. I can see that interplay between writing and art. Maybe it is a video I should do. I'd like to have writers in the residency. By the way, for the residency, there's a third room that just got that just made itself available. And what is fun about that is I'd really like some musicians, some singer songwriters type of people. I've contacted some from Quebec already, and we're gonna have some shows, some like living room shows, so very cozy and like intimate shows by different musician and artists. So I'm sending emails and messages, Instagram DMs to some, Quebec musicians. If you know any musicians, I would like to spend 2-3 weeks free, and I can, in exchange, not free, you can spend like 2 or 3 weeks. I'll house you here in this house in exchange of a really intimate show for the people here, because we don't have that much culture going around, as I've said. So that's something I've started doing. Oh, Tommy says last week has been busy dealing with devastating floods in my region. I'm sorry to hear that. Is it because the snow's melting and then there's a lot of water rivers going out of their beds and stuff like that. That happens here. Ethan just finished the Philosophy Tube video. You thought it was interesting? So did I. I liked it as well. Roby finished college. Congrats, Roby. God himself says, I thought the Philosophy Tube video was good. I was playing Faith, Michael Midence says. Awesome game, by the way. I have never heard of it. I'll have to look into it. Philosophy Tube never disappoints. I agree. Adby says, great video about John Singer Sargent's Madame X and Dr. Pizza by Great Art Explained. I haven't watched that video. Great Art Explained is releasing a book, by the way. It's really, congrats to him. We talked a bit for that one video I made. Really, really, really nice guy. Wow, Lenore says, I watched a video on why we can piss in the streets now in the Netherlands. Why is that? Why can you do that now? Chef Big Dog says, feelings are for girls and gay. Yes. Marco's week has been okay. I will skip the details. Christopher Oretta from Lisbon without the D. Hello. I think you're the first person from Lisbon that I've seen in chat. No, Ethan, I have not read Yukio Mishima, sadly. Shadow says, I found your video I found your channel with the video about Saturn devouring his son. That's a video I'm pretty proud of. Thank you. Oh, hi, nobody. Nobody says they don't know if they can stay because the internet's bad. Internet's been bad here as well. I've been disconnected a couple of times today. Hopefully we're fine. So far we're fine. Just like how the cat's still there. With the spotlight and everything. Oh, they're going to install fancy public toilets in Amsterdam. Cool. Very happy to hear that, Lenore. Come up out of the ground on their own. I don't know how I feel about that. Toilets that will come up out of the ground on their own? Can they go in the ground on their own? That's horror story shit right there. And he says, I admire Kerouac once I heard about his writing philosophy. I'm a writer and often find editing hampers my writing process. Do other artists get hampered by self-editing in other forms? I don't edit my scripts, for example, for my video essays. I do, but I read them out loud to ballet. Sometimes there are some sentences that like run too long, whatever. Like, let's say I write a script and I'm happy with it. I might change 2 or 3 sentences from it. But usually I do it in one go. And I don't like editing either. For better or for worse, I guess. Don't apologize, Yutuki. Oh, Christopher Retta writing a message that's really touching to me. Saying, really resonated with your Anarchy video. Maltesa Kropotkin and all beautiful. A student of the Society of Friends that is A. Thank you for discussing it. No problem. Thank you. Thank you for saying it resonated with you. I'm very happy it did. I got a comment, someone saying like, oh, he's just looking at the camera and just talking. Was that the propaganda video? I think both. I just look at the camera and talk. They didn't like that. I'm sorry. Pennywise says, love your channel. Still a bit off about the September 11 video, but I understand your desire a topic like that, even if it felt triggering. Thank you. That's one of my favorite videos I've ever made. It's and I know a lot of Americans like felt, triggered by it, and you're not the first one if that makes you feel better. They felt like as an attack, and in a way, I guess it kind of is, but I don't know. It's interesting to frame 9/11 through a different perspective, I think. And I think one of the reasons why a lot of people got triggered is because they don't like the shift in perspective as like in terms of like being the victims or being the oppressor. And like in terms of September 11, the 1970s September 11, the 73 September 11 was sorry. Yeah, the 73 September 11 was where America was the aggressor. And talking about that in a context where another September 11 happened and America was the victim instead of the aggressor, that makes for, it makes for a shift in perspective that can sound kind of, I don't know how to say it, like belligerent, right? But I feel like it's a change of perspective that is necessary, though. So often are we going to celebrate or remember the moments when we were victims, but never when we were the aggressors. And though we have to remember when we were victims, we also have to remember we were aggressors. Perhaps even more the fact that we were aggressors. At least that's my perspective. I'm saying that as not even an American, so I'm saying we, but Chef Big Dog says Animal Farm vid was gospel type shit. I hope that means it's good. I don't know what gospel type shit means. Love the new format. Thank you. Adopting a cat this week. Congrats. Her owner's house burned down whilst she was inside, so she's shaken up and needs a new home. Take care of that new cat. It might be very, very spooked at first. Hope you can give it the love that it deserves. Thank you, Tommy. Melissa is saying they were they were traumatized at the age of 5 by Saturn devouring his son. I mean, I guess that can be a good thing, right? There was also some paintings that really, really scared me when I was young. Not that my parents were like great art collectors, they weren't, but like we had some decorative paintings, maybe 2 or 3 in the house. And one of them, I remember, had this dog that looked a lot like is it a shackle? The ones from like ancient Egypt? how do you call them? Like those ancient Egypt dogs, and those like they scared me so much. You know, with the long ears. All right, these guys. Let me show you. These guys, they're scary. And there's one dog looking like that at the foot of some man with a cane. I've tried to trace down that painting, but I can't. But it's freaked me out. But at the same time, I think like that's the kind of painting that like, you know, that can really resonate with a child. And, you know, make them understand the power of paintings by being like so emotionally involved with them. So I think, you know, you might think it's a bad thing that you were traumatized by this painting. But you know what? I think more children should be traumatized by paintings. Makes them appreciate more in the future. Duck Explorer says, thoughts on Bob Ross. Interesting. I may have I don't like, sure, Bob Ross sounds really, really cool, but you might cancel me for this. Hot take, but like, it's fine. Like art as a hobby is fine, but I feel like that's all it is, right? It's hobbyist shit. It's not like he's doing it like, you know, like art therapy is really cool. And good if it relaxes you and if it, you know, not all of that, but you know, it's like paint by numbers. There you go. That's how I'm going to answer it. I see it as like Bob Ross is like the equivalent of paint by numbers in like to me at least. And there's nothing wrong with paint by numbers, but I'm not going to think like if someone does like paint by numbers, I'm not going to say, "Oh wow, that's beautiful art." I'll be like, "Oh, that probably relaxed you and that's really good for you," you know? And maybe you can bond with other people through your paint by number painting, but it won't be evocative for me. And I won't find that super interesting. And that's why I think Bob Ross is not like a great artist. I'm sure, you know, if I wanted to make like a video essay on Bob Ross, which I guess maybe I could, I guess that would work. But I would say that Bob Ross's art is not much about like what he's doing, but like the whole mediation of it. I think that's more artful. The way he goes about talking about his art and how he goes about communicating his art and like seeing it as education. And I think that there's an artistry in that. What he's doing, his landscapes, you know, it's decorative paintings, right? The kind of painting that you put on the wall because it looks nice, but it's not the kind of, you know, kind of thing that like that can challenge you or that can, you know, that will strike you. And if it does, good for you. But let's say there's other examples that are better at doing that. But yeah, I would say Bob Ross's like artistry is in his relationship to an audience. Yutuki says, what do you think about Clive Barker's art? I don't know. I don't know who Clive Barker is. I'm sorry. Kemi Bitsna Atkinson says, the inside chat about the misogyny rabbit hole in your journey back from the radicalization is more important than you know. Thank you for that. Oh, thank you. More important than I know. Thank you. That's really, really nice. Yeah. That was a fun journey. I love talking about that. And I think it informs a lot of how I perceive the world. Right. Yeah, like when you've been radicalized, especially to the right or anti-feminist and all that, you kind of have to develop an empathy for a lot of times like these men, right, who get pulled to the right or get pulled to the what they call red pill, manosphere, whatever, because it doesn't come from a place of happiness. And it doesn't come from a place of it's very very often seen as like a well, a lot of times you see it as yourself as a victim, right, in those circumstances. And even though this perceived victimhood is right or wrong, it's still, it still makes you sad, right? If that makes sense. There's still a lot of pain that comes from it. And I feel like that pain is needs to be understood. And when I, knowing how those people on the right and all that very often get there, I don't know, it helps dealing with it, right? And gives you hope as well, because it means like you can always get out of it. Lenore says, I'm always the aggressor. That I know. Yeah, Pennywise says, belligerent is the exact term. I can feel a bit hurtful, but America still has a lot of sins we need to address. Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Pennywise. I think to go back to like the September 11 video I did, where I talk about another September 11 and not like the American one. I think also the thing is you can tell that America has been like terrorists in other countries as much as you'd like. You're not really gonna get an audience from saying that, or you're gonna get some shrugs very often. And it's, what can you say? What can I say about that? It's just how it's gonna happen. So when you make a video about September 11, or Chomsky did that so many times, talking about September 11 and then talking about Chile. The whole point of doing that as well is to grab the attention of people who have this patriotic sentiment about, America and like never forget 9/11 and stuff like that. And then hit them with actually here, there's another September 11 where America was actually the terrorists. And then they might be more defensive, but they'll listen to you, just maybe out of anger. In my comments on that video, you see that anger. But that means that people like have to face the fact that America has also been terrorists instead of just shrugging it off. And it sucks that it has to be that way, but I think it can be very effective. In that case, I believe it was effective. It does shake up a bit, and it is belligerent, but I feel like it does, I think belligerence is fine in some context. And in that context, I think it was warranted, and I do hope it got to some people. Statistically, it did. It got a couple of views. It means it's dope. Thank you. I have not seen that video, Duck Explorer, about how Bob Ross's paintings actually tell one big story / adventure. Ten says hello from the Philippines. Hello, Ten. Jackal, there you go. All right, I'm far. All right, sorry. I'm gonna catch up on this on the chat. All right. We're talking about far right now again. Kemi Bettina Atkinson says, I do worry about these poor far right kids, even as a queer BIPOC. I know pain, isolation, and loneliness when I see it. A lot of pain. Yeah. I was talking about that 2 weeks ago with someone, talking about how like Tinder can really, really suck to guys. And the person was saying, well, yeah, but like at least the guys are not getting harassed like many women are. And it's like, yeah, probably, but they're not getting harassed, but they're like being invisibilized. And I don't know, we don't want to like say, all right, well, it's worse to get harassed than to be completely ignored, because like it's two different, sorts of pain, and it's really hard to weigh them, right? Well, it's much worse to get harassed on Tinder than it is to be to be completely invisible to like, the other gender, if you're, because when we talk about loneliness in guys on Tinder, it's usually, heterosexual guys. And it's like, let's not try to, put a hierarchy in those pains, right? Plus it's really hard to tell. There's also different degrees, but I know for it pains a lot of men to like be completely invisible on dating apps, for example. I know that because that was my experience. And it's like, you're like, before ballet, all right, story time, very, very personal, very personal story time now. Everyone get around, get cozy. I'm gonna trauma dump. I'm not gonna trauma dump. It's not as sad as it sounds. But I, like ballet, we started dating in 2020. So I was 23. And prior to dating ballet, I had never had a girlfriend before. And I remember I downloaded Tinder a couple of years before that, if not a couple of months, thinking I would never download Tinder. And then unless I'm very, very desperate. And at one point I was like very, very desperate. So I downloaded Tinder and it went so badly. And I felt really, really, it made me feel even worse about myself because I was like, all right, it didn't work to find like someone, like not even just a partner, just like someone to, to be with. It didn't work without Tinder. I got Tinder and then it didn't even work. That was the last resort and it didn't work. And it made me so like feel like shit completely. And like, I don't want to say I'd rather get harassed, right? Because I don't know how it feels to get harassed. But part of me thinks like, it's still like valid pain to feel very like lonely and isolated and not feeling like a way to get out of that. And all right, and not to be doomer or whatever, or like go incel on you, because I think that, it's the kind of rabbit hole that you go down, but when you have like young people who think that it's the end of the world when they break up with their first girlfriend or boyfriend. Very often I think incels think it's the end of the world when they can't find anyone in, a couple of months, sometimes a couple of years. It's never the end of the world. There's always someone that comes by in your life and that makes you happy. That's what happened to me. That's what happened. That's what will happen to you eventually. I think it's kind of inevitable. I'm in a very happy place now. Don't worry about me. Roman Vaughan Williams says, I'm here. And then Yatuki says, hi, Roman Vaughan Williams. I'm very happy that you made it, even though it must be really late in the UK right now. Welcome. Yatuki's from Iceland as well. So those Europeans always answer to the call. Let's see how people reacted to my ramble. And B says, Tinder was awesome for me during my brief stint as a single man. All right. No need to flex, Ant B. All right. We've got some handsome men in chat. All right. It's all right. Nobody says misogyny isolates and harms men too. Absolutely. That's one thing. There's a misconception about what feminism is around here. There was a feminist event close to here where, talking about feminist issues and stuff like that. And a lot of men, the men we've talked to, Bally and I, were like, oh, I can't go. I'm a guy, thinking that, feminism is not for them. This idea that feminism is for women and that fighting patriarchy and fighting misogyny is a thing that men can't do because they won't benefit from it. Yeah, you do benefit from it. Yeah, Tommy, drop your paintings in Discord. There's a one for critique. There's a channel for critique for art critique. There's one just for your art. There's some for self promotion if you want to promote yourself. Jen says, "Hello, hey, Mr. Canvas. Could you speak a little about Zdzislaw Bishinsky?" I avoid talking about Zdzislaw Bishinsky. Canvas lore. Story time, yeah. Nobody says, happy you found ballet. I'm very happy as well. Yeah, nobody says pain is valid, even if it's less than someone else's, because there's always someone who is hurting more. That's the thing. It's a very reactionary thing to say. All right, you think your pain is valid? Well, think of other people's pain, right? Your pain is nothing compared to these other people, because they'll take your privilege as a way to excuse your pain, but that can be done in so many ways to stop trying to improve conditions for people. For example, a guy will say, "Hey, it's very, very isolating, especially on like dating apps. I feel very isolated. I feel lonely. A lot of men feel lonely." And if you hit them with, "Well, yeah, well, for women it's worse," what you're doing is just being kind of reactionary. You're being very conservative in conserving the status quo by saying that other people have it worse. It's like saying, all right, well, a lot of people in America are poor. And it's saying, well, the poverty in Africa is even worse. So by always comparing the issues of different groups, you'll always find someone worse, and that just serves as an excuse to conserve or to justify or legitimize the pain that the privileged group has. It sounds weird to say, but it's the case. Ramen Volume Williams says, Tinder seems lame. Meeting people in person for me for the win. Yeah. I personally, I have I could never see myself meeting people in person. How do you guys do it? Do you go in a bar and go, "Hey, do you often come here?" I could never talk to a stranger. I mean, I could. And that's one thing as well, is being afraid of being creepy or whatever. I'm sure a lot of people are afraid of being creepy in chat. Especially men, I believe. And talking to people in real life or in a flirtatious way comes with the risk of sounding creepy or of sounding predatory, which is not what I want. Yeah, Pennywise is completely right, saying patriarchy destroys men's lives and tells us it gave us worth in that destruction. Absolutely. We are an anti-patriarchy stream here. Snow says, where do I find the Discord? Let me put it in chat. There you go. Yeah, Tommy's right about this. Also on patriarchy, I believe it to be a fundamental that it is fought in union. It affects men profoundly as well, though in a different way, and it's terrible that many don't realize this. Yeah, it affects men, and of course, men can be, can want to take down patriarchy. Absolutely. I do believe, for example, even that the bourgeoisie might want to take down capitalism, or like some members of the bourgeoisie, because even though they are privileged in the outcome of when I talk about capitalism, Rio leaves right away. He's like, fuck this shit. Oh, this guy's going to talk about capitalism? Ugh. Why can't he stick to art? Fuck that. I'm out of here. And he just left. But no, when we talk about capitalism, for the bourgeoisie, like, yes, they're benefiting a whole lot of from it, the same way a lot of men benefit from patriarchy, but you also lose a lot from it. For example, capitalism is destroying the planet, so we're losing the very place where that allows us to live, and the bourgeoisie has advantages in taking down capitalism from that perspective. Also, when you talk about how a lot of antisocial behavior comes from capitalism, in the sense that by putting everyone in competition, if you could reduce significantly antisocial behavior and antisocial action by abolishing capitalism, or by abolishing the ownership of the means of production by a small group, then you benefit in the long run from not having capitalism, even as a bourgeois. I think it's possible, and I think you can sell it that way to rich people, to the bourgeoisie. Not that they'll necessarily listen to you. They have privileges to defend, and they will defend those privileges, most of the time. But I think that can be an argument that, when we talk about the bourgeoisie or the owners of the means of production, yeah, I think it can work sometimes. It worked for Engels. It worked for a couple of them. Omniumae says, "What famous painting would you hang in your house if you had the choice?" I don't think I would hang any painting in my house that is famous. The reason for that is because I'd be seeing that painting I wouldn't be seeing that painting for its artistic merit, but for its clout, for lack of a better term. And I've talked about that in an old Q&A. It might be unlisted. I don't remember. But I talked about how I wouldn't want a famous painting unless I could sell it, for example. And if it's for the money, I'll have a famous painting. And I guess if I want to have an art gallery downstairs, in the living room, having a famous painting might help with that. But in terms of just having it on my room, on my wall, I don't know. As I've said before, what I look into art, what I look at art for. Let me center myself now that Rio's gone. I'm gonna go on a more comfortable chair. I'm sorry. If Rio wants to come, he's welcome to sit on the chair right here. And now St. Dominic is free, though he's still behind chat. All right. Oh, much more comfortable. But yeah, what I look for in art, it's art that confronts me, or art that makes me think, or whatever. But I don't know if I would want an artwork that confronts me or makes me think on my wall. To me, it's not that much about decoration. It's much more about an experience that I don't necessarily want every day, that I want to be confronted, because eventually it'll just lose its value if it was just there all the time. I have some paintings up, some art, but they lose value over time because I don't see them. They just become part of the decor. They just become, an object like my couch is, or for whatever reason. It can be a good talking piece when people come over, but aside from that, it's just there. It's just like this plaque, right? So it loses its value in a way. It's like you have you love a movie, right? Would you play it on loop on a TV in your living room? No, you wouldn't. It would be weird to do that. I'm gonna skip so many messages. I'm ignoring so many of you. Now I'm picking back up. I bet the canvas would want the Mona Lisa, ironically. You know what? Yes, I would. I made a video about how I don't like the Mona Lisa. But yes, I would have it ironically. I think that's a good maybe I should print it and say that it's the original. And if someone says it's not, I'll ask them to prove it, and then they won't be able to prove it because they can't actually have access to it. Yeah, nobody says I put art up that is made by my loved ones and old friends. It reminds me of them and their stories. Yeah, I think that's a good thing to, like, you know, the same way. I don't know if people still do that, but put pictures of themselves or their family up on the wall. I guess people still do that. I always felt like it was kind of weird to have, you know, pictures of friends or family on the wall just because they're like always there looking at you. It just kind of it irks me a bit. I guess some people have that. Some people still do that. So I'd much rather have, you know, art that was made by my loved ones and old friends instead of having their picture just staring at me all the time. I guess that's really cool. Damn. God says, I'm glad I found your channel. It's been inspiring me to get back into art. God is getting back into art because of me. Oh, Lenore's going to bed. Good night, Lenore. Yeah, the reason why I don't like the Mona Lisa, says Yutuki, is because they're androgynous. The Mona Lisa is a they. Roman says, my flatmates have my work on the wall, but I don't know whether to take it when I leave to London forever. Why? Why would you take it? Give it to them. Let it be a reminder for them that you're still there in that flat. In spirit, at least. Kemi says, my poor daughter lives in a museum. Yeah, yeah, your poor daughter. Ugh, that must really suck for her. Good night, Tommy. You might need it for applications and to exhibit. All right, Roman, take a picture of it. So you can do applications. Or recreate it. I was thinking today to show you, I want to look into Richard Avedon, and the reason why I want to do that is because I've been wanting to like look into, do some compositional studies, I guess, looking at compositions of pictures and art, for the artists in chat, and maybe, we can just vibe and look at the work of an artist or a photographer in this case, and pinpoint which ones we like, try to dissect it and see, and maybe criticize it all together. I think it would be a lot of fun. And before we do that, let me go get some earphones. We're gonna watch something on Richard Avedon, just so we know who they are, and then we can watch, and then we can look at, go through their art. I love Richard Avedon's photos, and I think we would gain a lot in looking at them. I'll be right back. Let me go get some earphones. Here they are. All right. Let's watch like a 2-minute video on Richard Avedon. All together. We'll learn so much. All right. Let me pull up a video. Right, Richard Avedon. Let's watch the video by The Art of Photography. We could watch the stream. That looks like a really, really fun stream. But let's not watch a stream on a stream, so we'll have to stick to The Art of Photography. I don't have ad blockers. I stand strong with my colleagues. All right, so Art of Photography, by the way, was one of the inspirations for this channel, which is like, I keep saying it's like Nerd Writer, and like there's also the School of Life, but the Art of Photography got me into especially, well, this kind of video. That was like 6 years ago. Now they do more gear oriented stuff. That's what gets clicks. But they used to do a lot of like a history of photography, which I really, really enjoyed. I'm happy you're curious about photography, Margot. We'll learn so much about it. It's a subject I really, really enjoy. I don't really do videos about it because I don't know. Like I feel like it's not that much fun to make videos on photography, and I don't know why. But we can maybe do it on stream. Let's see how that goes. So let's watch this video first.
In this video, I want to talk about Richard Avedon. In 1985, Richard Avedon released his seminal body of work entitled In the American West. This was a commissioned body of work that consisted of approximately 120 rather large portraits, all shot on 8x10. What was significant about this is Richard Avedon, who was previously known as photographing celebrities and U.S. presidents, had shifted his work to focus in on people in the American West, namely the working class. The portraits have a beautiful minimalistic quality to them, void of any background. They're all presented in...
Fun fact, that's something I would like to reproduce one day with Guest BZ. However, this series was highly criticized for being very stereotypical, or using very exotic subjects to make them look like she's not as exotic as, not proving my point here, but using exotic subjects to make the series interesting. Like, oh, here's in the American West where people look really, really interesting. We're just grabbing random people. but like it's like kind of exoticizing, you know, people who would normally be like just random dudes on the side of the road.
Black and white, and everything is stripped away, creating a very interesting relationship between
Like like understandably he would go for the more interesting subjects, like and like more of the working class and all of that. But of course it's a skewed perspective, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? But it is worthy of at least discussion and comment.
the viewer and the work. In the American West is a project that has oddly followed me around quite a bit in the last couple of years. It was originally commissioned by the Amon Carter Museum of American Art, which is in Fort Worth, Texas, where I live. I know people who went to the exhibition opening in 1985 and got to meet Avedon. And last year, I had the opportunity to do a short piece on Laura Wilson, who was his assistant on that project. And I got to pick her brain about it quite a bit. What's interesting is that even though the Amon Carter Museum commissioned this body of work, it has not been shown, to my knowledge, at all in that museum since the opening in the exhibition in the mid-'80s. It has traveled a little bit. I know it was SF MoMA in the American West, and I got really excited about this and wanted to go see it. And last Sunday, I took aluminum in the...
Is he going to talk about Richard
It was a
Avedon?
living artist. Sometimes this would be video pieces that you would do. Sometimes it was really actively working on the exhibition once it's up. Things that is very important to me that I do a lot of in the videos that I make is introducing you to not only significant works in the history of photography or significant works today, the big voices working in photography today. While that is exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to do it's kind of a challenge for me.
All right, he's not talking about Richard Avedon. So let's go. Let's actually go look at. Well, he did talk a bit about Richard Avedon in the fact that he was a fashion photographer, mostly like a portrait photographer for fashion. Perhaps we can see here. No, there's no artworks. So his fashion photography, we can look here. To me, is not the most interesting, but that's what he made his career off of. And as you can see, a lot of very, very dynamic pieces, but perhaps nothing that would catch your eye in terms of, just fashion photography in general, as it's kind of, your average fashion portraits that you would see in magazines. However, this one is one that's quite striking, because it has a very surrealist feel to it. I'd like to know more about it if I can find it. I'd like to have more information about this. Let's go without the information. Let's just learn more about it by looking at it, like just by analyzing it. First, is there any interest in chat for this painting in particular? Not painting a picture. Do you see it as striking, at least in terms of I see it as striking in terms of his other fashion photography. What's interesting is that it's not even fashion per se, right? It's a very abstract photograph. It's pretty sick, as God says. A little creepy, says Ron. Louis Sirois says, yeah. I think it's the same face. It almost as a collage. You have this it's very flat. The repetition sells it. Roman Vaughan Williams says it's a mediocre image. Tell us why. I'd love to read to see why you think it's mediocre. But here there's something a bit eerie about it, not only because of its not only because it's just like, heads without bodies, mostly, but I think it's because there's also like a flatness to that image. And this flatness makes it so that you're not actually sure if the face on the right is a huge face compared to this small face, or if that small face is just further in the background. And the reason for this, there's like a depth to that picture, but you're not sure if it's actually depth or if it's just like if there's a linear perspective or if there isn't. Because there could be, but also it could just be one massive figure with 5 heads on it. Yeah, it is very reminiscent of Man Ray. Roman Vaughan Williams says it is 30 years after Man Ray. Come on, we should expect 30 times better. Let's go look Man Ray. Is there one by Man Ray that's like similar to this? Let's try to not get banned from. I saw some pictures there that could get us banned. It is very similar to Man Ray, but I don't. No, I think it has its own, its own characteristic. Yeah, Annie says it reminds me of Dr. Seuss. That's true. That's absolutely true. Louis Serrois. Yo, you said my name right. Of course, Louis. I know people with Serrois as a last name. Audrey Hepburn. Good thing that some people in chat know who that person is, because I had no idea. And that is super interesting to have. Who is she? I don't even know who she is. 3rd greatest female screen legend from the classic Hollywood cinema. All right. So, pretty big deal. I think it's. I really like how he focuses on her face in this case. The fact that it was like, if it was a red model, I think this would have been fine. But the fact that he focuses on her face solely and cuts out the rest, we don't even get to see her hair, is a pretty like a ballsy move. Let's say you're a photographer and you get access to, like, to the 3rd, was it the 3rd greatest cinema person or female? You would probably want, this kind of picture or this kind of picture. If you want something more candid, you'd get this. You wouldn't want this, right? Reminds me of mushrooms growing almost. Let's go see Avedon. If it's, I want to know more about it. Khan Academy is probably the best. Right, there you go. Best resource we can have. A bouquet of 5 variously sized Audrey Hepburn faces emerged from impossibly elongated necks, shrouded in light-absorbing black amorphous knit, like an organized rhizome sending up oddly shaped flowers. This obviously manipulated composite photograph made by cutting and pasting photographs together 2 decades before Photoshop would be invented compels us to look closer while offering the reward of Audrey Hepburn's celebrated visage. She is 3rd on the American Film Institute's greatest female screen legends, with 5 slightly different glamorous expressions. I want to see why he did this, though. Avedon's emphasis on Hepburn's elongated necks Recall the graceful. I'll make it bigger for everyone. Icon d'Alisque. Avedon's composite photograph leaves viewers wondering if his representation of fashion and movie icon Hepburn subtly critiques the very beauty standards that fashion photography celebrated, or does he further encourage them? Everyone gonna go full Deleuze now. Oh, Mr. Canvas not knowing who Audrey Hepburn is hurts a lot. I'm sorry. I don't like. Let's say I watch movies. I could not tell you who the actors are. I might recognize them, but I could not tell you who they are. Could not tell you their names and all that. Leah Izamolea says that they see it as the oppression of women subduing with ideas of beauty and fashion norms, seeing it as, and I guess I could see it that way as well. It's definitely worth the conversation and the looking into, which I find is really, really fun, really, really cool. But I'm more interested in other works, honestly, personally. For example, one of my favorite works of his, and that's like, after seeing like this one, it's gonna sound stupid, but the elephants one is, I really, really like. And there are many reasons why I like these so much. And I think I'll go with this one to illustrate it. See, I don't want to guess what Avedon had in mind when he took this picture, because I'm not in his head and I'll never will be. Maybe I could do some research, but not on stream. I love this for many reasons. First, just compositionally, this is, I believe, like a masterpiece. You have the horizontal lines of not only the woman, but all the legs, who, like, in terms of size, each singular leg is pretty much the same size as this lady, or at least her lower body. There's a repetition, at least compositionally, between, like, with the legs of the elephant, of the animals, and the lady herself. There is her garment, of course, like, very, very contrasted. We love that in the middle. One thing I really, really like is the gesture of her arms, which continue into the elephant's like trunk. And as, like, here it starts from the tip of its trunk, I guess, going down to her right arm, and is like exiting to the left arm. You cannot see the elephant's gesture, but you can just imagine that it continues the same way that her left arm is going, right? There's a flow. And nobody says, like, breaking heart, elephants being made to perform. And that's one thing that I find very interesting as well, is that the elephant here is made to perform the same way that the model is made to perform. I don't think the model is doing these poses as she wants. She's probably being directed by Avedon himself, the same way these elephants are being directed by whatever master they have. And again, I don't know if that's what he wanted to show, but these elephants who are, taking direction from their master or whatever, have chains. And Avedon is not trying to hide that. He didn't have Photoshop, but like, I don't know if they probably could have hid it away if he wanted to. Stalin did that a couple of years before that, so it would have been a problem. But no, like the chains are there, and you know, it's completely accidental. In photography, a lot of composition is accidental, but here, you know, their chains are going the same direction. They're being paralleled by her her scarf. I don't know how to call it, like her belt or whatever. So there's also like this diagonality in a way. I call it horizontal, but I see it more like there's more of a diagonal thing, going with the chains, going with the legs, and with her own position. Also, another detail which is really important, I believe, it might sound like minor, but the fact that the eye is still in the shot is very important. See, this is not cropped. You can tell from like the frame of this picture that it's a large format picture that hasn't been cropped. And this elephant was probably very like much closer to her, and they went the other side. And it's good that there's still the eye, because it grounds us and like we see the elephant's expression in a way that you wouldn't if it was just slightly cropped. Like again, like imagine, I'm doing it on my screen, but imagine it was cropped this way, right? Like, and the elephant's eye was out of the frame. How the elephant would have been a lot less important in the composition. But the fact that it's there, you know, it's barely there, makes it more relevant in a way that this elephant, for example, isn't. I think this is a very strong picture. Incredible. And he says that the scarf might be is distracting. Yeah, I could see it as distracting, because it's a bit too bright. Yeah, but I'm not against her pure whites. As Ian just said, her pure whites and blacks stand right out between the gray background. You have tones of gray, and she's right there popping with the contrast, black and white, which might, because she's popping so hard, especially with the belt or the scarf thing, it might be a bit distracting. At the same time, if it's fashion photography, this is what you want to show off, right? It's the fashion. Kurt says, there's so much to look at. Is that real? Yes, it is. It is. There are other pictures, but I think that one is... It's a Saint Laurent gown. Margot says, I think composition must usually be at least partially intentional, right? At least I try to think about the framing perspective and such when I take a picture. Yeah, you do, but like, at least when I took pictures, a lot of it were... Maybe I can show you. You'll see my personal Instagram. Not that I care that much. Let me show you some pictures I took back when I was into photography. I'll show you 2 pictures. I have to log in. What if I do this? Oh, that doesn't work. All right, I'll just show you one then. Is that gonna work? Did that work? All right. This is my name on Instagram, Sean Archist. For example, this here. This is one of my pictures when I went to Honduras. Like, of course, I wanted some depth. I wanted like a foreground. I wanted a background. I wanted the background to be like I had a silhouette here, and that lady just decided to pop up. Here, for example, the fact that the knife, barely or just touches a bit, would I've preferred it was here probably, but I still love the fact like that was accidental in a way. It was like I didn't choose for this to go here, right? So there were so many things that I probably didn't see in the moment. For example, the red of this here being paralleled by the red in the back there. The fact that this guy was framed by the brick wall, or that's not brick, that's block wall. She popped out of nowhere. Her arm here, the diagonal, parallels this diagonal. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too much into it, but I think it's interesting, and it's composition that I couldn't think because there's so much movement, right? There is, I'm pointing, but you can't see. There is the arm of this lady going down. You can see my cursor, right? Going down. We're going up. We can travel that way. Going up his arm and going down this the machete here. There's like a compositional, like, I don't know how to say it, like a line here. You have a midground, background, foreground. Anyway, but most of it was like accidental in a way. And I'm sure a lot of it is accidental. It's the kind of thing that you see after, right? I don't know. Thank you, Harkon. Really nice comment. Hope you're still around, but thank you. Yeah, but Margot, don't. Yeah, I think it's like a lot of it is intentional, but I think some of it isn't. And that brings us to, I want to look at his in the American West. Is there like probably a slideshow that we can see? Yeah, there you go. I'm very happy. Yes, thank you, The Guardian. And those pictures are they're very flat in terms of lighting. They were mostly done outside during cloudy days against the white background backdrop that was usually, I think, was set like often on a trailer, because he would Avedon. I think it's behind the American West. There's a book about this. Yeah, here it's not a trailer. You see it here. Usually it's in a shadow of something. Here it's against a wall. All right, most of it isn't in the trailer. Oh, here you have it on a truck. So it's a very like minimal setup, even though it's made on large format. And he just traveled and took, I believe, hundreds of pictures. I'd love to see hundreds, if not thousands, of pictures that way. It took him years. And it's very interesting. I don't know why this man is holding his baby this way. This is probably not good. Oh, is that it? There's so many of them. And it's, to me, all right, there's like an homage that is paid to like the normal person. After photographing Hepburn, is that what her name was? right? And other really, really nice models. He goes out in the American West and takes pictures of, of working class people, of sometimes just normal people that normally he wouldn't have taken pictures of. And apparently that was very, very controversial. Why would you take pictures like, like fashion, or, like some glamorous pictures of, your average people? But to me, the criticism shouldn't be this, but should be, is this the actual American West that Avedon is picturing, right? Or is showing? Of the early 80s. There's this picture, which is also very, very popular, that you might have seen. Is this the actual American West, or is that the idealized American West? Right? Also, is it just me, or are they very white? Very white. But is this the actual American West? Oh, there you go. Interesting. I'm wondering if they're a a jail person, working class, stuff like that. But like the average person during the night, like early 80s, he's kind of trolling his earlier work, perhaps. But was that the average person in the early 80s in the American West? I don't think so. And that's the interesting part, is that Avedon's like, I'm going to go take pictures of your average Joe in the American West, of the working class, and turned out to take pictures of not your average Joe, but like of finding like exoticism in a different way, but not in the average, if that makes sense. I don't know if you agree with that or not. If with my characterization, here's a child with a gun. Never seen a more American picture than this. Let's see what people think in chat. Let's turn to chat. Lea Isamolea says, it's a great portrait of life and its variety, but it seems that something is missing, like a stronger idea behind it, maybe. Roman Vaughan Williams says, my previous comment, anyone? Walker Evans, Walker Evans, Walker Evans, Walker Evans. Pulaski, Chinatown, Pulaski, Chinatown. Sherry Levin, Sherry Levin, Sherry Levin. We'll look at Walker Evans. I would like to look into, but not right now. We're looking at today. It's Richard Avedon. Maybe next week will be Walker Evans. Yeah, you feel like there's something missing. I feel like also we're not maybe watching it or looking at it the right way. I think the right way of looking at it is by looking at it as a series and not as independent pictures. But I think, yeah. Oh, hi JTVJ. The pool is of average Joes, but perhaps curating a specific style from that to put forward, which could be in the artist's head, their idea of what was the most average. Because these are not average people. As Annie said, you can pick and choose your subjects. It can't be genuine. But where can it ever be? Yeah, because these are not average. So what he went to is he went in the American West and tried to find the most extravagant people. That's what I'm thinking. The most extravagant people. And in that case, he's not being um as confrontational by like of his earlier work than we might think. His earlier work was this, right? Making really nice pictures with like, some striking in that case striking scenery, which you really don't have here because it's just white background. That's probably no, that's not him. That's a inspiration. But there is like a strikingness that he found, but like not in the averageness of them, but in their, in things that made them stand out. Like the real confrontation would be to show some average people. But I don't think that's what he did. Kurt says, I saw your anarchy video. It was really inspiring. What I got out of it, gotta be in the elite class. Yeah, I did that video on anarchy to get everyone on the grind. All right. At the end of the video, if you guys didn't finish it, at the end of my video, I say, all right, guys, you gotta start investing in crypto. You gotta be part of the elite. All right. That's where all the power is. That's where all the privilege is. That's where we gotta go. JTVJ says, or we are wrong and the average person is covered with bees. Yeah, the average person in the American West is covered with bees. Absolutely. But in this case, for example, in the American West by Richard Avedon, I like the project, or like the idea of it, more than the actual execution, in a way. I like the idea of going, a couple of years, just taking pictures and documenting, the way people dressed, the way people expressed themselves, or like were showing themselves in a specific geographical area. I think that's really, really cool. What comes out of it, it doesn't matter as much to me than actually doing it, in a way, if that makes sense. And that's a weird thing to say, I think, because that makes me want to do it myself, right? I live in a region with its own culture, a very maritime culture, and that makes me think, hey, I'd like to go around and just take pictures of people, against a white backdrop, that I could put against my van, or a van. I don't own a van, not yet. Maybe if I wanted to make that project. But you know what I mean? The end result wouldn't be that important. The pictures at the end, like the real result wouldn't be the pictures at the end, but the pictures that you were taking along the way. That didn't make sense, but you know what I mean. NFTs. Nobody says, aren't these photos supposed to be very large prints when viewed in a museum? Yeah. So watching them like all by themselves online is perhaps not the best way of looking at them, and perhaps that's also why I think it's I prefer the idea of it. C'est la vie. Ugh. If I had mods, Mr. God, I would ban you for that. Margot being covered in bees. Everyone is covered in bees in the American West. I mean, good. Gotta protect them bees. Hello, Gatsby is dead. Welcome in chat. It can encapsulate a time and feeling. Yeah, absolutely. And interestingly, it does that without showing any context. And perhaps that's one thing I also like about the just the concept of this project is the fact that they're stripped out of their context, yet reveal a lot about their context. Like I don't want to compare them to bacteria, but like, you know, when you put bacteria and you look at it through like a microscope, you don't see where that bacteria is, but you're still looking at it and you can be fascinated by it. All right, no, never mind. These people in American West are always covered in bees and they're like bacteria. And I don't know if you see it the way I am, but it's like you're putting them under a microscope and you're looking at them out of their context. Like you pluck them out of wherever you get them with like those cotton swabs, and then you put them on like on a little sheet of glass, and then you look at them and then you study them. And I feel like this is the feeling that I get when I look at, you know, in the American West. And in this case, you know, it's not the study of the people that I find interesting. It's the act of taking the cotton swab and putting it on the glass that I find is worthy. Like, I don't care about the bacteria, but I do care about like its extraction in a way. I don't know how to explain it. Milasis13 says the Canvas Van Life Edition. You know what? I before buying this place to make it an artist residency, I very, very strongly considered it. The only thing is you can't really van life. Well, I mean, I guess you can, but like not that greatly van life in Canada during the winter. But I would have liked to do like, you know, a little Canada tour and make videos on artists that I, you know, see along the way or something. I don't know. Maybe one day. That's where the bee's knees came from? Okay. Margot says, I'd rather be covered in bees than have a landlord. But what if you're covered in bees and you became the bee's house, right? Then you would be the landlord. That's not any better. Are there too many van life videos? I find them inspiring and depressing all at once. Yeah, I don't know. I don't watch van life videos, so I can tell. JTVJ says, bacteria cares about you. I'm very happy to hear that. Jordy Mintz says, hearing you talking about doing a portrait series inspired by Avedon made me realize I've never seen any of your personal artwork. Do you share it online anywhere? No, I don't do art. I'm saying that, and I'm kind of doing art right now. But I haven't done art like in any way. I've shown a picture I've taken when I went to Honduras. I did a bit of photography when I was a bit younger, as if I was old. Let me see if I can find, hold on. Let me see if I can find my old, do you guys remember Flickr? Or if you ever had Flickr? Let me see if I can find my pictures, if I uploaded them at all. Aha, I did. I did. I can show you. All right, all right. Stream is showing you my Oh, you love me. Thank you, VTP. Thank you. Have a good night. Mark O says, remember everyone, you are here. You are here, everyone. Never forget that. Yeah, nobody says people taken out of context are more confusing, so therefore maybe more interesting in talking about Avedon's series. Yeah, and because it's more confusing, you may pay attention more to details or like where were they plucked from, right? Where are they from? And why are they dressing this way? Why are they, you know, showing off this way or whatever? Flickr is a blast from the past, isn't it? All right. I will show you pictures not from too long ago. So from when I started photography, and like these are not that great. These are not that great. They're the ultimate. I just started taking pictures from on like in the street. There you go. This is the first one I'm showing you. And I can like this picture is like very flat. What I liked is that this man is smoking a cigarette exactly in front of this man. That was in the gay quarter of Montreal. I don't know how you call it. I just thought it would be a funny picture. So this is I'm happy you like that picture, Holland. There was that picture. I just thought it was cool. Like there's not much to say about it. I like how like when you take pictures of people walking, you always want their legs to be like that. Like when their legs are like this, it's not, oh, you can't even see because of my face. Hold on. Whoa. This. Like here, when it's like that, you it's not as like it's not conveying movement as much as this. So I'm happy in the center of the composition. That person like that. There's the umbrella, there's the shelter, there's the book. There's like 3 different ways. I love the trench coat in like the phone booth. The fact that, you know, they're all separated. It's not bad. Like, there you go. That's me. I don't know what Mila, I don't know what Photolog is, but that's you might have dreamed that one, yeah. What else? What else? That's nothing. That's actually cool. I like not the picture is cool, but I was like in photography school and I contacted the people building this building and they gave me the opportunity to actually document some of their, you know, work. And I went to the top of the building while it was being built and I took pictures and I felt like, you know, that picture of the Rockefeller, is it the Rockefeller Center? The guys on the beam. That's what I felt like. I didn't like the pictures, but like, no, the person was not using the actual phone booth. See, the phone is there. They were just sheltering themselves from the rain. That's a funky picture. It's just a silhouette in the center of like a lot of reflections. It's not a bad picture. It just to me it doesn't mean much. This also doesn't mean much. That's damn the saturation. Cracked up the saturation completely. When it's saturated, it's a good picture. When there's a lot of colors, it's a good picture. No, don't worry, Roman verbal vomit. Really liked discussing as always. is that true, Holland? Yeah, isn't it fun? Flickr, going back to Flickr. I like the silhouette of this guy with the cigarette. Again, like okay pictures. That one's kind of cool, but that one's also kind of fun. This was like some metal thing in Montreal, and I framed someone through it. These pictures are all right. My friend here, haven't seen them in a very long time. That one, it took so long to take that picture. There was like a moving like screen in the back. And these are framed people. I wanted to frame everyone so that, you know, nothing like sticks out of their head. That took a very long time and like for not the best reasons. It's not like that much of a great picture. I remember the guy, a photography teacher, was like, saw that picture and was like, all right, you can't drop out of this program because there's a lot of dropouts in the photography program. Surprise, surprise. It's like, all right, you can't drop out of that. If you drop out of this program, I'll be so sad. This is such a strong picture. And I was like, is that picture really strong? And it's like, it's just because you know, it's an empty subway thing. I took it while I was in the subway. And here there's like a mirror where you see the person right around the corner. He really liked that. It's all right. That one I was inspired by, who's that photographer who started doing a lot of color? There's a photographer who turned color photography into art, and I don't remember their name. Thank you, Jordy Mintz. Thank you very much. Yeah, GTVJ, probably compared to some other students. You're absolutely right. Also liked really that one with the foreground of people walking, her silhouette. It's a lot of silhouettes. A lot of them are repeating. That one I took it for one of the classes that I had. I did a Bruce Gilden thing. I had like a whistle, and right before leaving the train, I blew the whistle, and then I took a picture of them. That's why so many people are looking at me. Here, 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 here. This person's confused. And I was very proud of that picture because I was like, that's kind of funny. But it's not, I don't know. Does it give you social anxiety just by looking at this picture? Oh, sorry. Hold on. That lady under me also looking at me, not very happy. This is what I was doing. This is what I was doing in college before doing the canvas. This is just classic, reflections in this like are really, really cool. Forgot about that. This was we had to reproduce paintings from but through photography, and I did Magritte's Golconda. And this guy was always wearing his little hat. We call it the Montrealer hat. And I was like, this is like the equivalent of a bowler hat for Magritte. And I did it against the Olympic Stadium, which is where I used to live. I didn't live in the Olympic Stadium, but I lived next to it. I could see it from my apartment in Hochelaga. And then I just did that in Photoshop. I thought it was funny. The mullet, boots, a guy. That guy's an artist. He was very kind enough for letting me take a picture of him in his studio. His name is Marc Seguin. He's quite popular. Marc Seguin, at least here in Quebec. It's this man. He paints with he's painted with dead animals. Here, you have it here. He's painted with human ashes before as well. Here's another one with actual dead animals. He also writes books in French though, so he was really nice for letting me take a picture of him. And maybe soon. Oh, that's when I was in Guatemala. So after the Guatemalan. Yes, I'm Oliver. T'es Québécois? Damn. I talk about Quebec quite a lot, I think, on my streams. But I never do at this time. Usually it's earlier, so a lot of people are from Europe. Yes, I do. Je suis Québécois. Pour un Québec libre et indépendant. All right. I'll tell you more about my experience in Guatemala and Honduras. So I went there to take pictures, right? And this is for, it was in Antigua, Guatemala. It was a La Semana Santa. Here I saw these guys coming down the street. And I was like, all right, I need a foreground. I took this hood of a truck. She's in a cage. Nothing too crazy. And interestingly enough, that's in Honduras. Interestingly enough, that one I kind of liked because there's a foreground, middle ground, and then that lady with the money, this man working. That one I liked it because it was very contrasty. That one we talked about earlier. Semana Santa again. All right, it ends here. Interestingly enough, I've spoken to two artists actually who about my experience. Oh, thank you, Leah. Thank you very much. I've talked to two artists about my experience in Honduras and Guatemala as a photographer, we'll say, or as someone who wanted to become a photographer, basically. And I dropped out of college, a photography college, because I didn't really care that much for the program because it was more focused on making money, so doing commercial photography. And I thought, all right, I've got money saved up, and instead of going to college and wasting my time, I should probably just go take pictures. And I can go to to a different country, fund myself like a photojournalist, and find some stories or whatever to cover, make a photo documentary or something in a different country, come back, show that as experience, and then start my photojournalist career that way. And as you may say, as you may see, I'm not a photojournalist anymore, or I've never been, and I'm not. I make videos on YouTube now. So what happened? And that story, I tell it a lot to artists, who very often put a lot of pressure on themselves to be artists, or they think, if I'm not an artist anymore, who am I, right? Or they build their identity around their art, or around what they do, and it's normal to do that. But you have to also accept the fact that it might not always be who you are. You might tell yourself that you're an artist, and maybe you are, but that might not always be who you are, and that's fine. and you know, you look, I so I went to Guatemala, Honduras. I go there thinking I'll take pictures, I'll do story, I'll do a story, I'll show that to become like a photographer that doesn't just do weddings, as someone said in chat. And I go there and I choke my life. I go there for like 2 to 3 months, and I barely take any pictures. You've seen some of the pictures I took, but I never found like a story or a compelling story that I want to share, or a compelling story to make like a photo documentary with my name on it. I barely took pictures, especially in the last month or two of my trip. And the reason for that is I realized I like taking pictures in Montreal because it spiced up a bit how I looked at the world in a way that, you know, because I took pictures, I would look at the world with a photographer's eye. I would look at the world in terms of composition. But I think it was because I was bored of the world I was living in. But then when I go to Guatemala or Honduras, I don't want to put a camera between myself and the world, because now I'm actually interested in looking at the world and in interacting with the people, the culture, and all of that. And my passion for photography kind of died after, like, during that trip. That trip that was supposed to become the trip that made me a photographer in a way, or that boosted my career as a photographer, actually made me drop photography in general. Maybe I didn't have to drop photography, but after that I realized, yeah, I don't like photography for the sake of photography. I like photography because it not distracted me, but allowed me to look at the world through, through compositions. Oh, that would make a cool picture. Looking at the world through like color theory and stuff like that. It was entertaining, but I wasn't doing it. I was doing it for fun, but not as like I don't know. Being in a different context made me see it very, very differently. And of course, that comes with a, how do you call it? With like an identity crisis. If I'm not a photographer, what the fuck am I? And many artists who sometimes go into a rut, or like, they're like, I don't know what to create anymore. It's like, not that you're not an artist, but maybe right now you have nothing to say, you have nothing to share, and that's fine. But a lot of artists and photographers, in my case, will be like, if I don't have that, what do I do? What do I have? And a lot of people fear that kind of, how do I say this? Like emptiness. So not having art or not having photography, what do I have if not that? But I think that it comes with a lot of freedom. When I stopped my photography, what I did, I actually signed up with McDonald's Wi-Fi to university to go to a program in social sciences, because I wanted to further my knowledge into anarchism and more social justice kind of, By that time, I wasn't a fascist, by the way. By that time, I grew out of it. But I dropped photography, and that prompted me to, try to look for myself in other ways. And the same way I got disillusioned with my own identity by putting myself in a different context, if you ever are put into a different context or just disillusioned with your own identity, thinking, maybe that's not me, but still holding on to that because it's the only thing you have to hold your identity on, just let it go. Just let it go, and that will force you or allow you to look for something else. At least that was the case for me. I let go photography, and it allowed me to find something that I could latch onto again. In that case, it was anarchism. It was also when I came back from Honduras that I started the canvas, because I didn't have photography anymore. So maybe I can talk about art history. So I don't know. It's not a bad thing to have those creative ruts, or have these identity crises from the idea that you're not an artist anymore, or that you're not a photographer. Let's see what people say. Let's see what chat says. Yeah, Javier, I was part of the environment. That's why I didn't take pictures. Yeah, like you don't want to put a camera between yourself and like what you're experiencing. If you know what you're experiencing and you're just like, you know, it's a routine thing, then maybe taking pictures might spice things up, right? But if you're actually engaged with it, then you don't need to spice things up. Oh, Jordy Mintz, I'm sorry. I hope you're still in chat. It's his name is Marc Séguin. He's from Quebec. It's this person, quite known at least in Quebec. His I know that his studio, his main studio is in in New York. He's mostly in New York. I don't know what which painting is made with human ashes though. Mila says, I'm an artist that doesn't make art, if that makes sense. I study fashion design, costume design, but I'm a dog groomer now. I like to believe that I apply a lot of creativity to that. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I'm surrounded by many artists here because, well, I'm really into art and into that vibe, but I don't do art that much either. Just like Mila. I studied photography. I studied art history and all that. But in what I do, unless you say video essays are art, but I think like sometimes like being an artist is like a mindset. It depends on your definition of artist and what art is, right? Not opening that can of worms. Oh, Gatsby is dead. Exactly. Very happy that you feel that same way. I stopped for 7 years to figure that out. Honestly, best thing I did. Started painting again this year. Yeah, sometimes that's what you need, right? And not forcing it out. If you're not forcing it out, sometimes it's more authentic. But sometimes you do need it to be forced out, right? Just depends. But I'm happy you feel the same way as I did. Maybe I will go back to photography one day, in 7 years or something. And he says, I find people willing to travel inspiring. That was why I loved Ernest Hemingway for years. I feel like everyone likes to travel. That's a critique that I could do one day, maybe. A tangent. People traveling for a week, that's not traveling. People going to resorts, cruise ships, come on. But yeah, no, like going to live in a different culture, experiencing a whole different culture, living there actually is a whole thing. Yeah, Mila just said what I was about to say before I said it, saying that like an artist is like more like a way of seeing the world or approaching the world or interacting with it. Sometimes that's how I feel as well. Yeah. Web madman. Hello, Web Madman. I've never seen you in chat. Says, I approach art as a process. I'm always moving between mediums. They start feeding into each other over time. Yeah. Yeah. I like I'm making artwork right now. Maybe I'll be able to talk about it after going through your chat. But it does fit into like my, other mediums I've experienced with. Photography being one of them. Oh God. All right, I got a lot to catch up to. All right, I'm gonna read really, really fast. Watch me read really, really fast. Oh, and Ballet's here. Are we gonna get a face reveal? Hi, baby. How'd it go? Good. Ballet's back. But you don't get a face reveal, not today. I'm sorry. Hello, Carlina, full-time artist from New Zealand. Jordy says, the idea of having art as my main career scared me, like it would become a chore. That is something very scary. That's one of the reasons that I was scared of making photography my main job as well. Like a chore, like a job, which it would be, undeniably. The Oddverse says, do you feel like you wasted your time doing photography? Interesting, very, very interesting question. Completely, like considering that I dropped it completely. I would say no. It helped me a lot. It's part of the journey, right? It's like, I've known people who dropped out of classes or dropped out of like complete university programs thinking, all right, that was a big waste of time. But I don't think it was. It's part of the journey, Like now it's not for you. For example, photography, I didn't waste my time with it. I've developed a lot of I think a lot of my artsy, like, not personality, but like my artsy sense, I guess, comes from photography. My interest in composition comes from photography. In some way, a lot of my, even like my social justice kind of like, interest comes from photography as well. So I was really fascinated by how photography could convey social movements or convey social justice in general. So no, it was part of building who I am. Also, it was through photography that I had art history classes, which I became interested in later on. Also, photography was the main reason why I started going to protests, more specifically anarchist protests. Interestingly enough, I went to a Antifa protest against, some in Quebec we call them la meute, who are, fasci Quebec nationalists. There are Quebec nationalists who are not fascies, not fasci. Some are very leftist, but those were the not the leftist type, the alt-right type. And I decided to go there to take pictures, being very much more on the left at that time. But being there to document, it was my first protest. And, it's when you go to protests that you realize that you can get very radicalized in terms of seeing the mechanisms of power in play and in action. especially when you see cops doing their duty, doing like the jobs of a cop, or the jobs that cops do, especially in protests. In any case, it makes you, it can radicalize quite a bit. It was through photography that I went to my first protest, to see class antagonism materialize in front of me. Oh, hi, Rashab. Hello. Brandon Labby or whatever says lumberjack daddy with a buttery voice, and he loves art. Thank you. I rocked it again, the clad shirt. I like it a lot. I've been wearing it a lot. Treon Reski, hello there. Hello, Treon. What does Margot on? I saw Brandon. Thank you very much. God. Francisca Zita says, just to say that I prefer these very late night streams. Here in France, it's like a safe place listening to you talk about evening, everything, art, free thinking, et l'art, quoi. L'art, quoi. That's very French. What time is it in France? It must be like really early in the morning. I'm very happy that you're listening to it, though. French people say a lot du coup as well. L'art, quoi. Du coup, l'art. Yeah, Mila says, I don't think any education you can get is a waste. Absolutely. Wasted 12. Yeah, I was just thinking about that. JTVJ says, I'm thinking of the Onion's joke about the guy who wasted 12 years of his life studying anteaters as a guest on the news. Turns out they're boring. I regret it all. I guess that's it's like all the math that I learned in school. Did I waste my time learning all that math in high school? Maybe. Probably, yes. Would have been better to learn about more history, politics. Yes, probably. I don't know what to put. Says, yay, I'm not late. You're not late. We've just been hanging out, though. We haven't really gone on about on weird and specific tangents. He's French, so maybe it's lumberjack. In Quebec, not French. I speak French, but I'm from Quebec. That's got lumberjack. See, in French, for the people who don't speak French, in French you would say Jacques. I think Jacques. In Quebec, we say Jacques. Jacques sounds a lot better, doesn't it? Interesting, very interesting question, Jordy. Does Bloc Québécois lean more towards those fasci types, asking as an ignorant Ontario dweller who doesn't know anything about their policy other than the separatism stuff? All right. I live in Quebec, where there are French people who do not associate with Canada because Canada's of British descent. French people are from French descent. The British invaded the people from French descent a couple of decades ago, in 1789, I think. In any case, but the French people still survived all those decades of colonialism, even though they were also colonizers, they were colonized as well. And then there's the idea of becoming their own country. They're already their own nation in a way because they have their own state. And Quebec has used its state to prop up its citizens from the domination of their colonialism. As I've said before in some of past streams, in the 60s, French Quebecers were not considered white. They were told by English-speaking Quebecers as well, I guess, to speak white, because the French language to people in Quebec who spoke English wasn't a white language, which is ironic because French is white. And in any case, in the 60s, there was a larger wealth disparity between French Canadians and English Canadians than there was between Black Americans and white Americans. The wealth gap was bigger between the French and English than between the Black and white in the US in the 60s. All that to say, there's been a lot of Quebec nationalism because of that. And I don't think that gap still exists today because of the state, because Quebecers used the state to prop themselves out of, you know, this massive inequality. Now, Quebec wants to be their own country because they speak French. They have their own culture distinctively from Canada, which is undeniable. Yeah, colonizer on colonizer violence. Yes, exactly. This is exactly what's going on. And it's interesting. Le Bloc Québécois, for example. All right, Le Bloc Québécois is very, very tied to Le Parti Québécois, which is also in Quebec. It's like Le Bloc Québécois is like the federal version of the provincial Parti Québécois. I am still like a separatist. I know it doesn't make sense to me a lot, but like French wasn't considered a white language because French people were peasants, were second-class citizens. You know, whiteness historically wasn't really about skin color. I want to make a video about that. I will one day. But whiteness hasn't been about skin color. It's been about privilege. Italians weren't considered white. A lot of Europeans weren't considered white back in the day in America. And all the way to to the 70s, Irish people weren't considered white. And all the way to the 70s, French Canadians weren't considered white. That conditionally white status is very relatable. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Gatsby is dead. Yeah, it's crazy how a lot of people don't know that. It's why I want to make a video about it. Yeah, as Alcy says, whiteness is whatever the current group of white people want to be white. Franklin thought Germans weren't white. Who believes Germans are white? But it's a very interesting topic. It makes you reconsider the whole idea of what whiteness is and what race in general means. It's not it's more than just skin color. But as I was saying, so I am I'm not a nationalist, but I do believe in Quebec independence. I want Quebec ultimately to be its own country. In the at the very least, for just democratic reasons, the Canadian state, I believe, is kind of ridiculous in the sense that, for the same reasons as I think the American state is kind of ridiculous in the sense that the interests of so many people cannot be in one single parliament or Congress or whatever. The interests of so many people can't be represented in on such a broad territory, and in such different broad cultures. I believe Quebec, for example, could be a country for democratic reasons, for its preservation of its culture as well. But that preservation of the culture is where it becomes yikesy very, very, very often. So I joined the Parti Québécois when I was 16 years old. And at 16, I decided to go to one of their congress. And through their congress, I met the candidate for my riding, I think it's called. And I went to their meeting. We were like 8 people, and I was like 16 years old. And I was in a meeting with the Parti Québécois, and we had the meeting. Everything goes well. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. I'm with the person, the candidate for the riding of the Parti Québécois. I'm involved in party politics. It's amazing. And after the meeting is over, they start talking about Muslims. And let me tell you, it didn't go very well. I just shut the fuck up. I was 16 years old, and I did not dare to argue with the political candidate of the riding and the people she surrounded herself with. But they were talking some shit about, we need to take arms before they do. And, oh, I saw a woman with her hijab in a public park. We're starting to see them everywhere. We really got to do something about that. And that came from the most progressive party at the time. Now there's a more progressive party, which actually has its roots in, I believe, like the Communist Party. I believe, I'm not even sure, and Québec Solidaire, who also want the separation of Quebec from Canada, but they're much more leftist, and they're much more progressive, especially when it comes to, when it comes to like people of color and immigrants and stuff like that. So that was my tangent on how Quebec is. The Bloc Québécois, because of its ties to the Parti Québécois, I believe, probably is pretty fucking racist. See the not getting reactions. Yeah, no. So there's for any nationalism, there will be like some pretty cringe racism coming from it. Holland says, where does that racism come from? Or stem from? Like many racisms, for example, when it comes, Quebec has a very strong history of being subjugated by the Catholic Church and nuns, and when a lot of boomers see, for example, Islam coming back, they see the return of an authoritarian religion that they pushed away. I believe Quebec is one of the least religious provinces in the country, though they're the most religious in terms of affirming themselves Catholic because of the tradition, but they're not the most religious in terms of their practice. But when they see other people like with religions that they hold very strongly, they see it as a threat, because it was a threat to, like, my uncle had to be on his knees praying because the priest would do inspections in his house. My uncle, who's in his 60s, the priest would go do inspections in people's house to make sure that there was a crucifix on top of every doorway in their house. and they would do the inspection. They would ask women, hey, I hope you're pregnant because this is your motherly duty as a Catholic woman. They would ask for money, of course, the tithe. I don't know how to say it in English. In French, it's la dîme. But anyway, they have a very, and that was my uncle, who's in his 60s, witnessed that. So when people see religion, they're kind of, but they're kind of iffy about it, which is a good thing. It's a leftist sentiment. But then when you target Muslims, especially women, then it becomes kind of bigoted. Yeah, but there's like sociological reasons for it, for their bigotry. Doesn't excuse their bigotry, but that's one of the reasons, at least for. Good night, nobody. Thank you for stopping by. But there's reasons to explain it though. Doesn't explain the bigotry. Obviously not. There's a comment earlier, Mr. Elroy. I hope you're still in chat. Never seen your name, so I'm going to read it. It says, your Animal Farm video grabbed me by your cinematography and the way you had the POV outside of a window looking at you was just one of the many great shots. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Had a lot of fun finding different compositions for that. That's one of the reasons like photography helped me for that. Jordy says, yeah, there's sort of a stereotype here that a lot of white Quebecers outside of Montreal are super racist, Islamophobic, anti-Semitic, etc. They're not anti-Semitic. Islamophobic, I mean, that's also a stereotype that I have. I mean, there are some people who are Islamophobic for sure. Racist, yes. Anti-Semitic, I don't think there's that much anti-Semitism in Quebec, at least from my experience and from what I've heard. It's just not a thing. People here really don't like, if they don't like a group, mostly it would be English people because they see it as the colonizer, right? But Jews, they don't see the problem with it. There's a really, really big Jewish community in Montreal. And no, I don't think, at least, again, I haven't heard it be a problem. Racism, yes. Islamophobia, yes. Especially outside of Montreal. But it would be mostly against white people, against English people. Yeah, Elsie. Learning photography helped me with that. And you can learn photography too with Skillshare. Have you noticed I've never taken a sponsorship? I could not see myself talk about Skillshare for like a minute in the middle of my video or at the beginning. Not be like, people can just skip it, but I just don't see myself doing it without throwing up. The only one I was close to taking was Masterclass, who sells like a small percentage. I don't know if you've, not Masterclass, sorry, Masterwork, I think it's called. Masterwork, who sell parts of paintings. And so you can buy like a percent of a Banksy, and when they sell it, like in 10 years, you get like a percentage, like the percentage that you own, you get back when it sells it in 10 years for large, like for more money. And I almost took that, and I told him I want to do it in like, but I want to do it on my video on Banksy and how capitalism like kind of destroys art and our, our consumption and our perception of art. And after reading my script on Banksy and capitalism, they said they didn't want to be part of they didn't want the partnership to happen anymore, which I was very sad about. I still made the video, but without the part about Masterworks. But I can see myself talking about my current sponsor, Audible. Audible allows me to listen to books while painting, while doing my art. And you too could. Yeah, they promote their service by saying like, oh, you can own 3,000th of this Rothko. All right, Jordy doing the promotion for Skillshare. Are they paying you? How much are they paying you? I don't know what to put. Says I'm not from Canada, but the only stereotype I've heard is that Alberta is racist. Alberta is probably the most conservative province in the country. So you'd be right. You'd be right. Margot says it's so interesting to know the different dynamics between religion and race and culture and ethnicity and nationality, etc., in different places than where you live or where you've been. Yeah, it plays out so differently. The dynamics are so different everywhere. It is actually really, really interesting. Yeah, absolutely, Jordy. I was trying to explain like the bigotry against Muslims for a lot of Quebecers. And it does come from real pain, as you say. It's not as simple as I hate them because I yeah. And like it's like real pain, but sometimes like it's still fabricated pain, but it's still real, right? You can make everyone believe that like Jews are controlling everything and that they're an existential threat, and you might feel pain from that, and that pain is very real because you believe in it. But even though the threat is not real, the pain is. And it's like you want that pain to go away. Like let's say it's fear, right? You fear the Jews' influence, right? Well, how do you get rid of that pain, which is that fear? You either, well, get rid of the Jew, or get rid of the fear. Well, you got to get rid of the fear. How do you get rid of the fear? You either understand that there is no fear to be had, or you get rid of the cause of that fear. Margot says, what if we streamed a movie together? Maybe we could one day. Can't be a copyrighted movie though, which might be hard. I've been watching so many movies because of my job right now as a part of the selection committee for a movie festival, a cinema festival. And it's been such an interesting experience. Sometimes I hate it because the movies fucking suck. And sometimes I love it because the movies are so fucking good. And a lot of the times I feel like I'm wasting my time. And but you just need that one like nugget that of gold that stays in like your mind for like the whole week. And that one's worth it. You can get a free trial using the code Lumberjack. No free trial for you guys. You don't deserve a free trial. Jordy says, as a Jew, most of our holidays are celebrating a time where someone tried to genocide us and we survived. Great. I mean, it can be very federating, right? It can be very federating. It goes back to like our first conversation at the beginning of this stream when talking with the person called Pennywise. I don't think they're still in chat, but talking about like my video on September 11, right? September 11 kind of became like a holiday in a way to many Americans, celebrating that one time when someone attacked them and they survived. And undermining that by saying, well, here's when you attacked someone else and they barely survived on September 11, and they get really triggered by that. It's like attacking that celebration of their survival in a way. But unlike, the Jews, America wasn't really threatened. Yeah, I don't know what to put. It's easy to fall like in an echo chamber online, for sure. It's not only echo chamber, but it's also well, it is echo chamber, but it's also, you can tailor all your surroundings to people who agree with you, or to people who share your beliefs. I think a lot of people have talked about that before. But for example, you're in someone who's in the alt-right. Let's say you're anti-Semitic, you're racist, you're misogynistic, and you're super edgy. And online, you can just make friends that are exactly the same way as you. Oh yeah, let's say the N-word. Let's make all the worst stuff. And then once that's normalized, you have a very hard time making friends outside of those circles, right? Because turns out nobody likes the white boy who keeps saying the N-word and makes edgy racist jokes. So they get stuck. And even when even when you realize like, oh my God, these people are fucking terrible, you still have a hard time getting out of it, because that's where your whole circle of friends, come from. That's your whole culture. Yeah, Rocket Supreme. Maybe we could have a discussion about that. Rocket Supreme says, I worked for a film festival too. So many of the films are so pretentious that you can visualize the director smelling their own farts. It's a recurring theme among small filmmakers. There's that. There's one thing I don't like either, is filmmakers who, it's kind of paradoxical, who make videos or films about themselves. Me using this platform for myself, talking about myself for what's been now 3 hours. But like someone who will make a movie, and I've had that yesterday, and it was like an hour and 30-minute movie, an autobiography in a way, by someone talking about themselves and their feelings and how they feel, and that's fine. But why should I care, right? I'm sure that to you, you're very important, but to me, you're not. And you making a video about yourself doesn't make you important. So why should I care? And that's why, that's why fiction is so great, is that you can talk about your own feelings through someone else and try to make it universal in a way. But as soon as you're talking about yourself, it just reeks of self-importance and of, I don't know. Yeah. And it's so interesting as well when it comes to like um, film criticism, whatever, or film like selection for a festival. Sometimes I'm down to watch movies, and sometimes I'm not, but I still have to because there's a shit ton of movies to watch. There's an element of chance because if I'm down to watch movies and your movie's really good, holy shit, I will vouch for it. Like, you know, but if your movie's really good, but I'm not super down to watch movies, I might, in a different context, I might not vouch for it as much, right? If that makes sense, or as hardly, or as passionately. And if I'm really, really down to watch movies and your movie sucks, I'll be much more angry at it. And I've written like really, really bad comments for some movies because holy shit, were they bad. But if I'm not really into watching a movie, I'm just doing it as a job, I'll just go like, ugh, it wasn't good. No. But if I'm really into it, I'll say, this movie was like, this was like, I don't know. I said for one of the movies, I was like, this movie was good for only one reason, and that reason is that it made me think of that one time when I made like a student film for high school, and we were doing it without a script, without a plan, and we were just doing it for fun, and we didn't take ourselves seriously, and the plot, like there wasn't a plot, there wasn't any through line, and the value wasn't in the movie but like in the relationships we made along the way. Anyway, I was really pissed. Sorry to hear that, Margot, about your neighbor. Jordy Mintz's grandfather being the biggest flex on Nazis. Lived to be 95 years old. Just out of spite. Just decided to not die out of spite. I don't know, talking about having a hard time to separate yourself from edgy people. And also integrating yourself to non-edgy people, being, you know, yeah, they've all, like he says, they've all matured. Yeah, there's also that phase, right? We all go through that phase. Okay, maybe not all, but a lot of us do. Rocka Supreme. Yeah, I've seen that as well. The worst thing is when they present boring stories about being sad in the suburbs as groundbreaking, transformative art. Yeah. I've honestly, and I've talked about that to Bali yesterday. I think I prefer, in terms of like, especially beginning cinematography, documentaries have been really like a lot better, because they don't require you to write scripts or, you know, to write dialogue, which is a very, very hard thing to do. And they don't require acting either, which when you start is a very, very hard thing to do. So for documentaries, you don't have the script, you don't have the acting, and it's just, you know, you going with the camera, finding a subject. I feel like in terms of like beginner or like, you know, not a lot of budget kind of cinematography, you can do like some very good and like interesting stuff through documentary. And I've been enjoying a lot more of the documentaries that I've seen. Like I've enjoyed them 1,000 times more than the the shitty fiction with poorly developed characters, poorly written scripts. Yeah, Brandon Lab is true, is saying it's fine to make a movie about yourself. You just got to mask it in an allegory. Yeah, absolutely, it's true. That will make it much more. You can connect to it much more. It'll make it much more universal if you mask the story about yourself as an allegory, or just make it about like a random person. Yeah, Mila says, "Shh, don't tell them." That's something it's actually because I started writing the script for next video, which is going to be on like transformative copying, transformative like on copying in general, and when writing scripts for for video essays, and I think that's for any video essayist, and I've talked about that with other video essayists. Great Art Explained was one of them, talking about how sometimes we're afraid of copying other people and plagiarizing without wanting to, right? And like that's like when you say like just make a movie about yourself, just gotta mask it in allegory. Like everything that video essayists say on YouTube, a lot of the times, it's things that have already been said. They're all ideas and facts that you can find anywhere else. It's only original on YouTube because of fancy visuals and like, you know, fancy words sometimes. But it's already been said. It's already been done. There's nothing like new. What can be new, what can be original is when you combine some ideas and some facts together. But the facts themselves, the ideas themselves, very often the way they're presented have been done. It's been done in the past. So it's just packaged differently for YouTube to make it look original, but it's not necessarily, it's not necessarily the case. So when you want to make a movie about yourself, the same thing, package it just differently. Margot says, I assume you don't feel this way about autobiographies. Like I don't think I've ever liked an autobiography, but I do think it can be interesting. Like autobiographies are relevant when you care about the person you're looking, what you're reading about, right? Or watching the autobiography about. In the case of independent movies, very often we don't know who the person who makes an autobiography about themselves, who they are, and it's hard to care about them if you don't know them already. Daniel G, just saw this by chance. What have I missed? You've missed just chatting in general. Not much. Zina Rebet says, all right, time to speak French. This will either be a hit or a miss with chat. Je suis allé au musée de Grenoble voir le tableau de Chagall dont tu avais parlé dans une vidéo. Je n'ai pas été déçu. Quel tableau de Chagall? Est-ce que c'était... Je pense que le seul tableau de Chagall dont j'ai parlé était le... C'est même pas un tableau, c'est une fresque, je pense, sur le plafond d'une chambre d'opéra. Je m'en souviens plus. Lequel tableau, Dina? Dis-moi, Dina. Dis-moi. Jordy, absolutely. Rather watch a complete dogshit movie than middle of the road movie. Middle of the road movie are boring, and that's the worst thing you can do as a filmmaker is make your shit boring and not making us not care about it and just watching it for the sake of watching it for as a selection committee person. But if it's completely dog shit, I've had so much fun watching one movie in particular that was so dog shit that I actually watched it with ballet to laugh at it. I watched it twice. I watched the movie twice because it was so bad. I think I've watched a handful of movies twice. Most of them, all of them because they were good. But that one movie that was so bad, I watched it twice because it was bad. But it's not complete failure if you make me watch a movie twice, right? You did something right. Good night, Brandon. Fiona says, hi all. Hello, Fiona. Is that Jesus behind me? That is not Jesus. Let me show you. Fione, this is Saint Dominic. Wait, hold on. There you go. That's Saint Dominic. That chair was there for my cat, but my cat's gone. That's Saint Dominic. It's a statue that came with the house. And I kept it, and I showed it to stream, and then I left it in the background. I showed to stream all my religious relics that came with the house. Hi, Carolyn. Carolyn says, but good documentary require excellent editing. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. But though I've seen some like not greatly edited documentaries, but they remained interesting because of their subject matter. In the sense that like a lot of documentaries rely more on the subject and on the way you approach the subject than the technical aspect of it. Because some of the documentaries I've seen weren't great technically, far from it, but because the subject was worth listening to and learning about, then it was, it kept my interest and my attention. Whereas, even if a work of fiction has an interesting plot, interesting characters, and good pace, you can't skip out on the technical side of things, I believe. Elsie says, as someone who writes plays, I'm very dedicated to the idea of a good script. I don't know how you do it. I could not write dialogue and make it sound natural. I'm sure there are ways of doing that, or there's techniques of doing that. Bally just laughed at me for saying techniques. Margot says, I disagree about the point of making a story about a different person, only because a fictional and non-fictional character are each non-objective. I'm not saying about a different person. I'm saying if you want to make if you're not like an important person in the sense that like people won't care about you for who you are or for what you've achieved. If you want to write about yourself, fictionalize yourself. It's not about writing necessarily for some like about a different person. You can write about yourself, but making it fictional so that it's more relatable. Instead of saying, this is me, like autofiction. Not like autofiction, it is autofiction that I'm talking about. So that's more universal in a way. Yeah, no, thank you for the tip, Rocket Supreme. But after what, like, I watched some movies where the dialogue was dog shit, completely like terrible. Now I was trying to think, all right, how would I make it better? I couldn't. I just couldn't. This is like I will criticize someone for doing something that I could not even do better. Also, like fourth wall breaking, JTVJ. A la Malcolm in the Middle. Oh, I want to show you what I'm working on. So I've already said in stream that I'm working on doing some détournement. So a lot of the art that's in my region is tourist art, and because of that, there's no art that's proper to the region outside of art that's made for other people. There's no art for ourselves in my region. It's always for tourists. It's always for other people, and I want to change that. So I decided to organize an exhibition, and there's already like maybe like a dozen of people who want to participate, which I'm very very happy about, and I can't wait to to make it public. Where what we do is we kind of use touristic art to create a new form of art by doing by appropriating art that's more like touristy. We're going to appropriate it and use it to make our own art. And it's something I've been wanting to do, and I was like, maybe this could be my first artwork that I could do. And I got to do some experimentation to get the finish that I wanted. I'll show you one of my inspiration. One of my inspiration is Jasper Johns. I hope y'all know Jasper Johns. Mr. Johns is the guy who made Flag. All right, hold on. Let me show you. Here, that painting, you probably know it. You've probably seen it. I made a video about it. Probably one of my least watched videos, least viewed videos, but one of my favorites, actually. Elsie says, I fucking love Jasper Johns. Absolute hero of mine. And one of the reasons why I liked this painting before understanding what it is, I like it more because it's writing the line between abstraction and figuration. If you watch my video, you'll understand why. But I really liked the finish of it. I liked the texture of like the newspaper and the encaustic, because it's encaustic. And I've been wanting to do encaustic, but it sounds very complicated. I don't really want to do it. But one of the ways I want to make my first real painting, we'll say, is maybe by doing something a bit like this. So using newspaper in the back of something, newspaper in this case, like this here, and use paint on top of it, but still have the newspaper print get out of the paint or use it behind the paint. So what I want to do, oh, by the way, a lot of the art, tourist art that sells here is about this rock. This rock is absolutely huge. And it's like pretty much like a huge item, or like a huge like symbol of the region. It's what tourists come to see. It's what tourists like to, they like to buy things with, buy postcards or images or paintings. Oh, Web Madman says it's actually really easy. Try it. It's so fun. Encaustic? Maybe I could. Is it just wax with pigments? Like that would be like I'm not an artist, so I don't know. It would be like so what I'm doing is I will use these, like I've already printed a shit ton of small little images. I'm gonna cut them up completely, and I will do a la Jasper Johns, or even as a la Andy Warhol, a repetition of that image over and over with the painting on top. So kind of criticize. My goal with that would be to criticize like the mass production of like this fucking images of these rocks as the sole way of, you know, having art, like art in this region, and use it as the backdrop, because I want it to be, it's like creating art from this tradition of just tourist art. But what we're doing is, the whole project is taking this art that's, you know, been pretty much the only way of having art in this area, tourist art, and using it as a way of, you know, as a backdrop for, you know, a new art appropriated by people who actually live in the region, not art for, you know, for tourists. So it'll be like kind of the backdrop. I'll show you. There you go. I printed this on like newspaper paper, like this here. And I've got, it's all the same ones on newspaper paper. And what I want to do with this, and maybe Web Madman can probably tell me. I was thinking initially of using, you know, a mixture of water, acrylic paint, and flour to like stick them a la papier mâché style. Stick them on a canvas, on a raw canvas that I have, so that it sticks to the canvas. But I don't know if it will, and I don't know if it will be like if I mix acrylic paint with flour and water, if it will make if it will just become like a pink. I'll have to try out. I'd have to like do some tests. I don't know what to put. Says I can't lie. I have a tourist painting from Montreal hanging in my restroom. I mean, it's in the restroom, so that's the best place to put it, right? I guess. But it's not even Montreal like tourist paintings. It's Gaspésie tourist paintings. Make papier mâché sculptures too. I didn't. My pig nose was in papier mâché, and my the crown here was also in papier mâché. This one here, and see, like, I think that's something I would like to do. If I maybe not put like acrylic in the papier mâché like solution, like glue thing, I can just do the papier mâché and then paint over it. And maybe you can see here, you can kind of see through, like you can see the newspaper through my through my thing sometimes. But I would dilute the paint with water after it dries and try to paint over it so we can still see through the acrylic paint. Oh, Web Madman answered, you can get acrylic medium which has no pigment, then it absorbs the ink from the paper. Then you wash off the paper, making it translucent. Really? Huh. Maybe, but I'm thinking, the thing is, I also want the texture of the paper. From like here in Jasper Johns. I mean, the texture here is not from the paper, it's from the encaustic, right? But whatever, I still like the texture of the paper. And I don't necessarily want it to be translucent, I think. I'll do some tests and come back with what I got. I'm very excited to do it. It'll be I wish I had. Yeah, it would look a lot like Warhol's, like Monroe's, like this, I believe. But the whole idea would be to have them all the same and no color, and make it more like a color field painting with the texture in the background. But those not being necessarily the subject. The subject is just the, the empty, in this case would be red canvas with those repetitions in the background. At least that's my idea for now. If it turns out not well, you'll never see it. If it turns out and I'm proud of it, you'll get to see it. So that way I never publicly fail. There you go. All right. All right. I was going to end it, but then someone recommended me maybe take inspiration from another piece of Jasper Johns. All right. Frank O'Hara. Have I seen this? I probably have seen this. Oh, that one's completely different though. This here? It's not this one, right? Is it this one? Or is it this one? It has to be this one, right? Wow. No, it's not really the vibe I'm going for. Yeah. No, it's not the vision I have. Though it does look pretty cool in terms of is that like that's Frank O'Hara? No, that's still Jasper Johns. But no, it's not necessarily because I want to be able to see these prints through the paint, but very subtly. Like let me show you again. Oops. Let me show you again this. So you see the print, but very subtly in terms to a point where the print is not the subject. And that's kind of what I want, if that makes sense. So the print here isn't the subject. It's just like a background. It just becomes like the thing that I painted on. Again, perhaps when I'm done, we'll be able to see. Only if it works. Jordy says, sorry to go back to the movie topic, but if anyone is interested in this fantastic movie called We Are Little Zombies, just want to recommend it because it's criminally underseen. You got teary-eyed. Braxton Edward. Hello, Braxton. Just watch your video on the Sad Clown Paradox. Love your work. Thank you. You seem very thoughtful and smart. Whoa, thank you. Going to binge watch more of your stuff. Thank you very much, but wait till you fall on my political stuff. Then you'll be thoroughly disappointed and you'll hate me. Thank you, Aussie. I'll think on the idea, and if I come up with any good references, I'll let you know. I might post some progress. Let's see if I post some progress in Discord. If I have the confidence to do it, we'll see. You'd love to see it? All right, I'll try. I'll show what I got. I'll try. All right, everyone. It's now 11:15 here. How do I join the Discord? I'll put the Discord right now in chat. Try this. I'll say hello to my cat. I'll say good night to my cat. It's 11:15. I'm about to end stream. Thank you for hanging out. It's been a late stream. I hope you enjoyed maybe a bit later a later hangout. Thank you very much, Jordy. Thank you, JTVJ. Check out Discord. Follow on Instagram. Maybe on Instagram. We'll see. In any case, thank you for hanging out. Good night, everyone. It was fun as usual. Always glad. I really liked talking about Richard Avedon. Maybe we'll find another photographer for next time. Maybe I'll prepare like a folder of pictures. Or if someone wants to prepare a folder of pictures or can link some on Discord so I can look on next stream. That could be fun as well. So we can go through a photographer, known or not. Maybe we can do some criticism and some breakdown of some photography. Anyway, in any case, thank you everyone. Thank you for joining on this late night stream, later than usual, and we'll see each other probably next week. Thank you. Good night.